A social media trend turned deadly after a Virginia high school student was shot and killed Saturday for doing a TikTok door knock prank. 27-year-old Tyler Chase Butler was charged Tuesday with killing 18-year-old high school senior Michael Bosworth Jr.
The first time since he was arrested for second-degree murder, malicious wounding, and firearms charges. Tyler Chase Butler faced a judge this morning. The 27-year-old is ordered to stay in jail without bond after he was accused of shooting and killing 18-year-old Massaponack High senior Michael Bosworth.
Have a male with a gunshot wound to the chest.
The sheriff's office says Butler fired shots at Bosworth and two other teenagers because he thought they were breaking into his house along Mackenzie Lane in Fredericksburg. It happened around 3 a.m. Saturday.
So just like our last video, we have another case involving self-defense against a homeowner and someone who was potentially trying to intrude. As you just saw from the news clips, this is involving a case out of Spotsylvania, Virginia, in which a high school senior was playing a TikTok ding-dong ditch prank on a homeowner. Homeowner didn't know what was going on and fired his gun, believing he was doing it in self-defense, and now he's arrested on murder charges. Let's look at this case and see exactly what's going on here. So Michael Bosworth is the name of the senior, and Tyler Chase Butler is the name of the homeowner. Essentially, Michael Bosworth, some of his friends doing TikToks, going around not doing smart things. Apparently they're doing this at 3 a.m. in the morning. I don't know what they thought would be good to do at 3 a.m. in the morning, but it definitely wasn't this. And they go and do this TikTok prank on Mr. Butler's home. He doesn't know what's going on, so he takes his gun and he begins firing at them. It's not exactly clear everything that's happened, if he fired through the door, if he opened the door and saw them and fired, but he fired his gun believing someone was trying to intrude or burglarize his house, and he ended up wounding one of them and shooting Mr. Bosworth and ultimately killing him from this. So now he's been arrested and the state has charged him on murder charges. And obviously there's a big question of, was this self-defense? Was he actually knowing what was going on and just defending his home, or did he overreact to something that was going on and actually commit murder? Part of what we need to analyze, what we did in our last video, is what are the self-defense elements in which this state considers. Last time we were talking about Ohio. This time we're in Virginia, and as of course with the law, where you are matters the most, and being in a completely different place changes completely how you're going to analyze the situation, what kind of defenses you can bring, and what kind of arguments you can even make. So even though Ohio has one way of doing it, Virginia can have a completely different way of doing it, and the outcome that we saw in Ohio, the same thing could happen in Virginia, and you can end up with a completely different circumstance. Or do we see something very different in Ohio? The grand jury didn't even indict the homeowner when he shot the supposed intruder, but here they actually have, and now he's facing criminal charges. They denied his bond. He's just sitting in jail, even though he may have believed that he hasn't even committed any type of crime yet. So very different outcomes that we're seeing here. Obviously a lot of different things in play too. In the other case, we saw clear video seeing what the perpetrator was doing or attempting to do as they were breaking into the home. Right now, we actually don't have much information, and I think that's possibly why we're seeing a very different kind of situation unfold here. There's no ring camera video showing exactly what those high schoolers were doing in this TikTok ding-dong ditch, and all we have is their word, and obviously we don't know exactly how much that is worth. If you don't know what the TikTok ding-dong ditch prank is, here are some videos just to clear up exactly what that is. So as you can see, it is not our traditional ding-dong ditch that we all know and love from our time, where it's literally ding-dong and then you run away. This instead is come up to someone's door, kick on it, bang on it, make as much noise as you can, and then run away. And I don't know what is up with these TikToks or why people are thinking these are smart things to do. But as anyone can know, as being a homeowner or just living in any kind of place, someone starts kicking and banging on your door. One, it's either the police trying to get in, and that's a bad situation, or it's someone trying to break into your house, and that's another bad situation. So no matter what kind of banging you're hearing, you don't want to be a part of that situation. So obviously, Mr. Butler hears this banging, doesn't know about these TikToks going on, or believes that this is what's happening to him, and then responds in kind to what he believes, so far as what we know, is someone trying to burglarize his house. And in Virginia, the self-defense laws aren't codified by statute, but instead are made out in case law. So I found some cases. Let's look at those as to how Virginia itself defines how someone can actually use self-defense. So the case we're looking at first is Bailey v. Commonwealth from the Supreme Court of Virginia. This is an older case from 1958. It says, "We agree with the argument on behalf of the defendant that since the killing was in self-defense, as the lower court found, he was entitled to an acquittal. As is pointed out in Sims v. Commonwealth, homicide and self-defense may be either justifiable or excusable. If it is either, it entitles the prisoner to an acquittal. In either case, he is deemed to be innocent and guiltless of any crime. Justifiable homicide and self-defense occurs when a person, without any fault on his part in provoking or bringing on the difficulty, kills another under reasonable apprehension of death or great bodily harm to himself. Excusable homicide and self-defense occurs when the accused, although in some fault in the first instance in provoking or bringing on the difficulty, when attacked, retreats as far as possible, announces his desire for peace, and kills his adversary from a reasonably apparent necessity to preserve his own life or save him from great bodily harm." So as opposed to other places, in Virginia, we have two types of self-defenses when it comes to homicide. There's justifiable and there's excusable. And essentially justifiable is saying that without provoking the person or being at any fault in creating the situation, you are reasonably apprehending that you are about to die or suffer great bodily harm. And in order to prevent that, you end up taking the other person's life. So you are not a part of creating the situation. Someone's just attacking you. You think you might die. You can act in self-defense. That's the justifiable homicide. Now, the other side is excusable homicide. This part is very different because now you're actually a part of creating the situation. And when you are part of creating the situation, there are other parts that you have to do in order to be able to use the self-defense. Namely that now you have to actually retreat and you have to do as much as you can to try to de-escalate the situation. And only until you've done those things and your adversary is still trying to kill you or commit great bodily harm, then you are able to use force or take their life in order to preserve your own. So in looking at this situation, we have to think which one of these two will actually apply. And I think it's very clear that it's going to be justifiable homicide. Clearly, Mr. Butler didn't create the situation. He wasn't a part of inviting them to his home to do this ding-dong ditch prank. And he was just living his own life. And they are the ones who brought this situation up by committing the prank at his specific house. So he'll be able to actually use this justifiable homicide defense, I believe, in showing that he was at no fault in creating the situation and that he was under a reasonable apprehension that he was going to suffer death or great bodily harm. And obviously that's going to be the turning point, him being able to explain to the jury or the prosecutors that when he heard them doing this prank on his door, he really believed and he reasonably believed that someone was going to burglarize his house and that he was going to get seriously harmed or possibly die. And if he can convince them of those things, I think then he will be able to really use his defense and be able to show that this was, as it says, a justifiable homicide. Now, as in the last case, it involved the Castle Doctrine, because we're not just involved with people attacking someone out on the street or somewhere else, in the mall, in the store. This is involving someone coming to your home, the place where you live, where you sleep, where you're supposed to feel most comfortable. And as we stated in the last video again, the home is a very sacred place for the American legal system, and there are a lot more protections that are afforded to you when you're in your home, namely the Castle Doctrine. So when you're in your home, you're able to protect your home, and you're given a lot more leeway in defense of your home as well. So in the last case, the Castle Doctrine was very big in that you don't even have to retreat when you're in your home because you can protect it. And now, of course, this is also a case involving someone being in their home and believing that someone was trying to get in. So let's look at what Virginia says about the Castle Doctrine. So Virginia is saying about the Castle Doctrine that finally, when a party assaults a homeowner in his own home, as in the case, the homeowner has the right to use whatever force necessary to repel the aggressor. In Fortune v. Commonwealth, states recognizing the law derived from defense of the Castle Doctrine provides that a man is not obliged to retreat if assaulted in his dwelling, but may use such means as are absolutely necessary to repel the assailant, even to the taking of life. So now that we have all these things and we understand the self-defense laws being applied in Virginia, where do we go from here? Essentially why I believe the other case in Ohio was able to end very quickly from the grand jury stage is there was so much more evidence at those early stages to tell us the story. We're able to make conclusions a lot easier, see the demeanor of the assailants that lost his life, see and hear actually the voices of the people who eventually took the assailant's life, and also get their interviews and see exactly what was going on. This time, we're not getting a lot of that information up front, and I believe that's what the police, the prosecutors, and defense are collecting in order to bring their case. And possibly even when the prosecutors see more evidence, they themselves may drop charges against Mr. Butler, seeing that he acted in justifiable self-defense. But until we get that, we don't exactly know. And so we need to see more videotapes to know exactly what those high schoolers were doing. We need to see if there was a break in between the prank and the banging on the door to when Mr. Butler shot, if he had time to see that they weren't actually assailants and saw them run away, and then he began shooting. Obviously now that self-defense argument is going to break down a lot more because he won't be able to prove as much that he was in reasonable fear of death if he sees them running away from his home at that point. But we don't know those things, so we can't make that conclusion just yet. And obviously, if we don't have videotapes, all we'll have at the trial is the testimony of all those involved. And obviously, the high schoolers are going to give an account that's going to be self-serving towards their own interests. They'll probably minimize what they did, say that they didn't really knock as hard or kick as hard as what everyone thinks they do. But we'll have to wait for that testimony to come out. And obviously what's interesting very here is that we're already seeing some of the neighbors around were part of this entire incident. They may have video. They may have also heard what was going on, and even their own reactions, as we'll see in this news clip right here.
Guys, I met with a neighbor here who showed me video from in front of his home not long before the shooting down the street. And the video, he wouldn't share it with us yet, but it shows 3 teenagers approaching his house and not ringing the doorbell and running, but banging and kicking his garage door. He says they weren't trying to break into his house, but this was not just simply ringing and running.
Some of them themselves are not fans of what was happening. And I think a lot of people in different comment sections and things like that are already kind of saying that this was very justifiable. No one should be doing this. Banging on your door at 3 a.m. in the morning, even if you're a high school senior with a promising future. It's really unfortunate that he had to lose his life, but you can't really blame someone for believing that they were being burglarized when something like that happens at that time of night. And of course, also the biggest thing that we need to still find out is what was Mr. Butler's state of mind? Did he reasonably believe that someone was actually going to break into his home? And until we get those facts, we can't make the full conclusions. But even beyond that, My opinion on this is that there is a lot writing for Mr. Butler in proving a self-defense case. Maybe something else will come out that could change my mind. We'll have to make an update on this when that time comes around. But at least at this point, I think we have enough to believe that self-defense was justified for this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Was this self-defense? Was it an overreaction? Do you think the high schoolers were doing the right thing or Mr. Butler was in the wrong? I definitely love to hear your thoughts about it all below. Thank you.
Here's neighbor Maria Sedlak.
I just woke up and all the house was flashing with blue lights.
Court documents reveal a much different story. They say the two other teens who survived claimed they were playing the Ding Dong Ditch Challenge. It's a TikTok prank where kids try to kick a stranger's front door and run away. According to the detective, he and his friends had hit a couple of doors in the neighborhood. The juvenile is not familiar with the neighborhood that they were in. The juvenile said as they were running from a residence, he and his friends were shot at.
Did they kick on your door, do you know?
Not on ours.
But you know down
other
here.
neighbors, yes.
The case has sparked a big debate in the Spotsylvania community.
I just feel like it was very unfortunate all the way around. I feel sorry for the parents, but I also feel sorry for my neighbors. If someone came, kicking on my door, like front door, back door, wherever door, we will have been protecting our house too.